chapter 1 because the prologue didn't quite work in recording.
Basically, if we can't be bothered to redo it, TLDR, old guy asks Raoul to marry his daughter.
Gabrielle.
Raoul doesn't want to do it because
He's old and creepy.
and she's young. For some reason, he doesn't want to tap that.
Or maybe she's fugly. It doesn't say she's beautiful. Maybe she's young and fugly.
This is a Mills and Boon book. Of course, she's beautiful.
I don't know. She's beautiful on the front cover.
In fact, let's see.
She's officially. It doesn't actually say on the back that she's beautiful. So, just for fun, let's assume she's fugly, and we'll see if it changes the book end.
In fact, no. In fact, this is fun. You be Raoul. I'll be Gabriella, and I'll do
Play it fugly.
yes.
Okay, right. And in case we don't get a chance to redo the prologue, I'm dedicating my whole performance to the memory of the sadly deceased King John.
I'm dedicating this chapter to Mitch. Because we all need to sort our lives out.
We do indeed. A moment for Mitch.
Why not?
Why not? What? I have cider in my nose.
So,
Chapter 1. 3 weeks later. Winter had come early. The late September day, dressed in... What?
come early.
Winter had prematurely ejaculated. The late September day, dressed in drab colours as if the planet itself were mourning the death of her grandfather. But the inclement weather found only empathy with Gabriella Dardenberg in there. Dardenburg on the back. I don't know if she's Jewish or German now.
Well, it's again Mills and Boon.
Alright, okay, fine. I'll say Dardenberg and assume she's Jewish then. See if that changes it at all. Dardenberg. The damp air and misty rain matching her mood as she stood beside her grandfather's flower-strewn grave in a cimetière de Pesky. Then the last of the mourners whispered condolences and pressed cold lips briefly to her cheeks before drifting away along the air. She would leave shortly too, once Consuelo had returned from the call he had refused himself to take, and they would join everyone at the hotel where the caterers were no doubt already serving canapés and cognac. But for now, Gabrielle was happy to be left alone in quiet reflection in the cold, dank stones of the graveyard. Here, under the shadow of the Tour d'Eiffel, there was nothing to intrude, the sound of the sea barely penetrating the stone walls, until a dark shadow made her gasp and look around. He appeared out of the fog, tall, broad, and dark as night, as he moved stealthily between the funeral sculptures, the winged angels, and fat cherubs, suspended ghost-like in the swirling mist as he passed. A shiver of recognition, or was it relief, washed through her, and bizarrely for the first time that day she felt warm. Raoul. She had seen him at the service. It had been impossible to miss his dark presence in the back of the tiny, crowded chapel. Her heart lifted at the prospect of seeing him again after so many years, only to exit the chapel to a bubble of disappointment.
That's going to be a really firming thing with that relationship in an older man.
What I like is a shiver passed through her and she felt warm. It was better than a sneeze. But what a disappointment. Disappointment when she had found him nowhere amongst the mourners gathered outside. Raoul! I have to do it like that, I'm sorry. Who with his intense black eyes and passionate mouth had been her every adolescent fantasy. Dark fantasy.
Well, that's convenient.
Dark fantasies she'd had no right to imagine. Oh dear. Wicked fantasies that brought a blush to her cheek just thinking about them. And when she'd got news that he'd married, she'd cried for 2 days solid. She'd cried for him a year later when she'd learned of his wife's death. Thank God he had no idea about any of it, or she could never face him now. Thank God she was over all that. What inconvenient.
Yeah.
The crunch of boots on gravel. You have to do sound effects on reading. Grew louder. His long leather coat swirling about his legs. His hair pulled back into a ponytail. Do a pony noise. But served to accentuate the strong lines and angles of his chin. His eyes, if anything, were more intense now than she remembered.
Wait. In a romance novel, could anyone have features other than chiseled?
They could be intense or striking, I suppose.
Oh no, that's more their presence. That is more their presence. Like, has anyone's appearance ever described as anything other than chiseled? Their physique.
Laid.
Their physique. Milled.
Milled. Pillar drilled. more of a woman thing to wardrobe. His eyes, if anything, were even more intense than she remembered under that dark slash of brow.
So he isn't monobrow. Bitch.
No, it's just an open wound. Possibly drawn on with crayon. Tortured, even. See, it is an open wound. Tortured, even. And something about that intently frightened her. Just as if his purposeful stride held a portent of danger, sending a tremor skidding. The mist, she thought in explanation, as she continued to log his approach with her eyes. The cold smile. The air shifted and parted before him, and then he was there, standing before her, a mountain of blackness in a mist-shrouded world, so tall she had to tilt her head back to look up at him, at his unflinching expression. He didn't smile. She didn't expect him to. Not really. Not this day. But this was Raoul, an old family friend, so she dismissed her feelings of foreboding and danger, and ventured a nervous smile of greeting, slipping her hand instinctively into his as easily as she had done once, relishing their instant warmth, thinking, "You came."
Raoul, it's so good to see ya. I'm going with the Jewish.
That's Jewish?
Raoul, it's so good to see ya. See you.
Are you doing like New York Jew?
Yeah.
Oh, I see, right, okay. Right. I'm following you. This is kind of like Janice from Friends.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So yeah, picture that. But fugly. Fugglier.
Janice, I would.
I did.
Well, I mean,
obviously. For a moment, he seemed to tense, and she wondered if she'd overstepped the mark by presuming familiarity. Then his hand squeezed hers, and the tightness around his mouth relaxed just enough to give an answering smile. He still spoke of sadness and loss. "Gabriella," he said in a way that seemed to cherish every syllable as he uttered it. Then he leaned down to kiss. No. First one cheek, and then the other, slow, lingering kisses. She shuddered under the brush of his lips against her throat, his warm breath curling into hers, and peeling up. She breathed him in, taken by the way he smelt so familiar, of clean skin and warm leather,
because he had a shower today and put on his coat.
and the same woody notes of his signature scent did she recall. Yet there was so much more besides, as if what she'd remembered had been a shadow of his essence. "I am so sorry for your loss." And more Transylvanian. He drew back then, letting her hands drop, and she tried desperately not to be disappointed by his absence, shoving her hands in her coat pockets.
Wait, his absence, does that mean...
I think he had to look his hands
around
her.
Alright, not having a hug and so like...
He walked off. Shoving her hands in her coat pockets, not just to keep them warm, but more to stop them reaching out for him. Those teenage fantasies might have been behind her, but Raoul was here now. Real, broad, and achingly close. Inside her pockets, her hands cold.
"I didn't know that you were coming."
She managed a little shakily. You want to try that again?
I didn't know that you were coming.
She managed a little shakily, surprised he could still affect her so deeply and so fundamentally after so many years.
"Oh, you gotta stay to the house. Where you staying? You should have let me know."
You sound more like Joey. This is more
that could work.
Picture Joey.
Picture Joey in a dress.
Joey Ardenburg. Or Ardenberg.
Yeah, I'm playing a Jewish.
Right, so we're going for Jewish Joey in a dress.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. He rattled off the name of a hotel that barely registered in the force of the impact of seeing him again. But then she was hardly herself right now. Memories, especially memories of anything and anyone connected to her grandfather, seemed all too willing to bubble to the surface. Raoul had been close to her grandfather for longer than she had. Their two families, intertwined as long as she could remember, at least until tragedy had wiped out both sets of parents. And of course... Oh, no, sorry, this
And of course, she said.
Wise guy, eh?
You're a wise guy. and of course,
she said, acknowledging that truth.
It's your last too.
Umberto was a good man, he said with a nod, his deep voice rich with emotion. I will miss him more than I can say. Then he blinked. And something skated across his eyes. Skated across his eyes? It's an interesting metaphor. Skated across his eyes. Something so sharp and painful. be a wasp. That she could almost feel its sting, so fleeting it was gone before she could make sense of it. And if he hadn't turned his head to look down at the grave, that probably was a wasp.
Yeah.
Remembering, she assumed, as she studied his profile and catalogued the changes time had brought. Wait,